Okay, so we're back. Technology is amazing. It looks like we might have a couple questions coming in live. And we're, just so everyone knows too, we're going to put both the first half of this video that just abruptly ended, and in this one as well. We're going to leave these on our page, and we'll also link back to them so you can use them for references. But so one question that we have is from a stay-at-home mom. So I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm here with my child full-time. Budget's obviously an issue. You know, how do I find the time and the budget to come in and speak with an attorney?
Right, and that's a hard issue because a lot of times we have parents, or a parent has to bring their child in, we don't let them in the consultation, but we do have stuff set up so they can be entertained and the staff can be here and watch them. The reality is, if you are separating and divorcing and you litigate or you mediate, no matter how you settle, it could be expensive. You have to remember that, and a lot of times I'll tell clients, is there a joint bank account? Well, you can go and get some money out of that. You're not doing anything wrong by doing that. At the end of the day, you may owe it back in some form or fashion, but if you've got to be able to get out of your house, especially if it's a domestic violence situation or you're afraid and you need to get out, sometimes you have to have money to put yourself up and take care of your kids for about 3 months. Because if you file a complaint today and it's not an emergency, you would be 2 or 3 or 4 months out before you get in front of a judge. And you've got to be able to sort of support yourself and pay for your legal fees in between there. You can ask the court to award you attorney fees from the other side, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So you can't depend on that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. A lot of times people get loans from parents or from friends or credit cards, which I know is hard to do, but if that's what it takes, then that's sort of what you have to do.
Sure. And that is actually another good question, just about finances. You know, how do people, that seems like it could be the most contentious part. How do people divide that up? And especially if mom is a stay-at-home mom, right, and may not have a working income, and say the child's still really young and not in school yet and would like to continue staying at home.
Right.
You know, how does she advocate for herself?
Well, you have to show that you have been a primary stay-at-home mom, and that dad was, you're stay-at-home dad, and mom's okay with that, and this is what you have been done for the last 3 years of your marriage. This is what you are used to, and that's what your child is used to. So you can ask for alimony. You're going to get child support, which is based on guidelines, and then there's your income, the other party's income, and then gives you a number. And then alimony or spousal support is based on what are your expenses. Now, realistically, 2 houses can't live as one, so not everybody gets to have and maintain their lifestyle. It's just a reality. And alimony isn't forever. A lot of times judges will say, I'll give you alimony for X amount of years, that'll give you time to go back to school, get on your feet, get your child in school, but then you're going to have to make it on your own. But so it's really there just to get you up, out, and give you a push forward so that you can have your new life.
And what about, like, who gets to stay in the house, things like that? How does that?
Guess what? The hardest part of getting separated is getting separated, because you cannot throw the other person out. Now, if there's a domestic violence issue, there might be an issue there, but a lot of times people stay together. They put their house on the market, they stay together till the house sells, and then we split it all up. Property is divided 50-50 to start off. That's the starting premise, okay? Let's say you have $100,000 in your retirement and you earned it all during our marriage. Well, guess what? I get 50% of that. And a lot of times people don't understand that because it's like, I work for that. But in North Carolina, the state looks at you as a unit. So everything you do is to support the unit. Everything I do, even if I stay home, I'm working, I'm promoting, I'm letting you go out and make an income. So my job is just as important as yours. So we start with the premise of half. And if you want to keep the house, then you're going to have enough income to do that. And sometimes that's hard. And so letting go of, I've seen people fight over the most crazy things like ceramic pigs, and because it's not about the thing, it's about how you got it and where you got it and the memories that are attached to that. And so you've got to sort of step back and realize what's really important in the long run and what's best for me and my children.
Maybe not the pig.
Maybe not the pig. Exactly.
All right, well, we do have some time for more questions, but what are kind of, I guess, any other tips that you would offer to a mom who's just starting this process?
I would, yeah. I can't, it's hard to go back and what I call clean up something that maybe you weren't educated about or didn't know that you shouldn't have done. So we love to, as we call it, spread the word. So we like for people to come in before they separate, talk about your situation, let us tell you what your legal rights and options are. And then you can decide what you want to do from there. Because let's say you leave the house and there's no domestic violence, but you just, it's unbearable, I got to get out, I take my kids. Well, you can't go back. You've abandoned the residence. You still own it, but you can't go back, and whoever's left can change the locks. So, it's hard to get you back in. If you leave and you don't take your personal property out of the house, you're not going to get it back until the other party gives it to you or court orders it back. Opening your own bank account, getting your own credit started, even if it's a little Target credit card. You've got to have credit in your own name. If you can get a part-time job, just to do something. One, it takes your mind off of things, makes you, it gives you something to focus on other than what you're going through. So I always encourage moms, if they can, to start getting some work history behind them and that sort of thing. Open your own bank account. Look for documents. If your husband, if you're a stay-at-home mom and husband's the one that's working, well, look for those bank statements. Look for those credit card statements. Look for those retirement accounts. Make copies of birth certificates, passports, all those important papers, because once people start separating, money starts to disappear, stress levels get higher, that sort of thing. So if you can prepare, that's the best thing you can do. And keep a journal. I always tell people to keep a journal about what's going on and what's happening, because 6 months or a year down the road, you may not remember, but if you've got a calendar that jogs your memory, then that's fabulous. So it's just sort of preparing in that way.
Yeah. Knowledge is definitely power, and I do think it's so important for, as women, that even if you're staying at home and not in charge of the money coming in, like, know where the money is going, and have logins and stuff. I think it just is good for a marriage too. Just in my opinion, to know everybody's on the same page with everything and understand what the budget is, and that also helps sort of take some stress off.
Right, and we always, a lot of times, we'll have people, we'll hook them up with a financial advisor or someone that can say, what's your situation as best you know it, and what do you need for us to get you where you need to be. And so that helps them they don't have to do it by themselves. They've got someone that can sit with them and help them do that.
And now, so what if I suspect my husband is cheating? What do I do? Should I hire a private investigator? Should I, what's sort of the right course of action?
Right. It depends on the situation, but definitely, if you think your husband is having an affair or cheating on you, legally, it can be very good for you, because if you have behaved and your husband has not, then you're going to be awarded alimony and spousal support. Now, you don't have to catch them in the act, so to speak, but anytime you can get a private detective or someone that's a third party that can provide a document and can testify in court to those sorts of things, it's really helpful. And it can also be helpful in settlement in that way too. So I always hate when that happens, but it's a reality of life sometimes. So again, knowledge is power. Advocate for yourself. Get out there and get on the front end, and then we can help you work toward a settlement that works for you.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the hardest, particularly for women, to not feel victimized when something like that happens, but instead, be strong for you and your family, and do the right thing, and, go find out what your rights are right away.
Right. It doesn't mean that you have to separate. It doesn't mean you can't reconcile or go to counseling or whatever it is you need to do, but if you don't know what's out there and what your rights are and what you can do, then it's hard to ask the right questions when you're trying to do that.
Sure. Now, what if my husband has had an affair? Will that affect our custody arrangement? What if I'm, there's a lot of anger in that situation.
Right,
I don't particularly maybe want that other person around my child. How do we broach that?
Well, here's the thing about affairs. If it's certainly not good for the marriage, it's probably not good for the kids, but unless there's some nexus to the child, let's say that you're out 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody's watching your child, or if it's affecting the child, then the affair comes into the custody. If not, it's not an issue. I know it is for you. It would be for you personally, but for the courts, it's not necessarily. But when it comes to alimony and those sorts of things, then yeah, it's really important. Absolutely.
Well, I think that kind of will wrap us up a little bit here today. Like I said, these videos are going to stay on our page. We're not going to delete those. So we'll also post the contact information for New Direction as a recap. And link you over to their Facebook page. But there, if you visit RaleighMomsBlog.com right now, all of New Direction's contact information is on a badge on the side of our page, so you can see that there as well. But thank you to everyone who turned in. This is a new thing we're trying here on the blog today. So I'm so happy to have people join you. Hopefully we answered some questions. I will say too, if you have questions that didn't get answered, feel free to contact New Direction to kind of ask those, or you can email us privately. You don't have to post it on the Facebook page, and we can sort of facilitate getting some of those questions answered for you too.
And I will say on our website, which is newdirectionfamilylaw.com, there's a brochure you can download. It's what to do if you're thinking about separating or divorcing, and it sort of lists out a few of the things that we've talked about today. So that may be helpful for folks.
Yeah, lots of info. I love that you guys are blogging and have a lot of information for people. I think that's a really good, knowledgeable resources are good.
So thank you for letting me come today.
Thank you. Yes, it's actually, we can't see it here, but it's a nice cozy house that we're in. It doesn't feel officey, feels nice and homey in here. So very warm and friendly. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys.
And have a good rest of your day.
Thanks.